I'm a big fan of director Raoul Walsh. Among an extraordinary canon of seminal Warner Brothers movies, he made a fistful of great films starring actor Errol Flynn during the 1940s, which included They Died with Their Boots On, Gentleman Jim, and Objective Burma. He had the ability to convincingly mythologize history while bringing out a kind of visual, involuntary nobility in the characters. For all his mythologizing, though, his heroes are all recognizably human. Check out the last scene between Errol Flynn and Olivia de Havilland in They Died with Their Boots On. It rings so emotionally true of final partings, and with the masterful hand of Max Steiner scoring it, it achieves something akin to great art in what's essentially an action picture. Walsh periodically placed his focus on properties rife with risky, introspective gameplay, creating something decidedly more somber than the rousers he was most associated with at Warner Brothers. One such movie called Uncertain Glory comes very strongly to mind. It's more of a meditation than a rouser. Its action comes primarily from the moral interplay between its two main characters, played by Flynn and the wonderful Hungarian actor Paul Lukas. And then there's a third character, a kind of Madonna. All innocence, all untested, purity almost to an extreme in the midst of the depicted horrors of World War II occupied Paris in the film. Actress Jean Sullivan plays Marianne, a young woman with what appears to be little experience beyond her church-going, and being a kind of ward to a wealthy matron played by Lucille Watson. So, permit me now to jump forward to 1982 and my first full year of living here in Manhattan. A dear friend, Allie Brunel, assembled four of us and produced George Bernard Shaw's one-act play Overruled for a short run on Theatre Row here in New York City. Fate happened to play a wonderful hand with this experience. After one of our performances, a woman who was co-artistic director of the Theatre Row Theatre, only 2 storefronts down from where we were playing, saw us, loved us, and hired us on the spot for a few performances to be played for a group of inner-city students that she'd been scheduling a series of short plays for. We, of course, grabbed at the chance to put a few additional dollars in our pockets, but our excitement cooled a bit as we moved closer to our production dates. All of us had experience with high school tours at some point. I was on the road for a full year after college, darting paperclips and spitballs cross-country. Our expectations weren't much when it came to playing an erudite one-act by Mr. Shaw for high school students. On the day, we emboldened ourselves as our audiences made their mid-morning entrance and immediately started raising Cain. Well, several Cains, in fact. So, we had no idea what to expect once the house lights dimmed. Well, I take that back. All of us anticipated total chaos. All of us, with the exception of Jean Sullivan, that is. She knew that something wonderful was about to happen. And as it happened, it happened. We took our places and began this arch, very proper British play populated by 4 eccentric characters spouting their philosophic thoughts on marriage, divorce, extramarital affairs, and suddenly we could feel a kind of fascination coming from across the footlights. These young men and women, some of whom had never stepped inside a theater before and whose backgrounds couldn't have been more alien to what we were representing, got it. They were entirely with us. They laughed. They jeered. They made the play come alive in ways that we never would have imagined. Jean, our producer, knew this. She trusted this. This was more our education than the audience's. And when the play was over, a wonderful bond had been forged between us and those students. Jean Sullivan is the actress who played Marianne, Errol Flynn's unrequited love, in Uncertain Glory. For some reason, I never made the connection. It was only during some idle chit-chat with her that she quietly started talking about her being brought to Warner Brothers at a very tender age, and under the very protective wing of her mother, she was signed to co-star with Errol Flynn in this movie. Now, at the time, Mr. Flynn was a very controversial, sad figure. He'd been dealing with a rape charge brought against him by a young woman who couldn't have been much younger than Jean at the time. But Jean spoke very kindly of him. She also spoke very dismissively of her abilities as an actress. But after having seen this movie again recently, I strongly disagree with her. Fine director that Raoul Walsh is, he manages to capture Jean's inexperience and transform it, elevate it to an ethereal, almost unattainable height. It's no wonder that in the context of the film's storyline, Errol Flynn's transformation from criminal to patriot isn't in the least bit incredulous, given Gene's presence in the film. He has no other choice but to play on the side of the angels. Gene Sullivan was a strong, sweet, and humble woman dedicated to both theater and education. It was a privilege to know her for that short span of time, and to this day, it thrills me to think that for a moment I was so close to the complex history that comprises the legend of Errol Flynn.